Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Y'all ready for this?
All right, our Jocks fans, this week we are treated to be with NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw and also a Survivor alum. So let's get ready to know. I'm super excited.
I know you're excited. You've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now.
So Tom, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you. And I know I say this almost every week just because of how many great guests we have, but this is like a double whammy of starstruck for me. I've watched all 45 seasons. And before even knowing that you were an NHL player, when it came up under your name on Survivor, what you did for a profession, you were one of my favorites on that season. So I was like, oh, fuck, awesome. I can root for a hockey player and my favorite guy that was on.
That was fun. That was a real blast. Thank you for having me on the show, by the way. Nice to meet you guys. Yeah, Survivor was one of those deals. I do a lot of motivational speaking now, and I always tell people, if you've got something that you dream about doing, don't wait till later on down the road or come up with excuses. Just go ahead and do it. So that was a big thing for Survivor for me, was just something that, it was one of those things like, who else gets a chance to be on Survivor? We were in Fiji, we were in Australia, so it was a fun time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll start with your NHL career. We'll hop back into some of this Survivor stuff later on. So you were telling us before we hopped on, you're from Brampton, Ontario. So what was it like coming up? I'm sure you were a Leafs fan growing up.
I really wasn't. I was
That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. We bounced around, but the first game I had in Toronto, Maple Leaf Gardens, was actually my second game in the National Hockey League, and Freddie Shero was our coach. And he had pulled myself, Chris Katsopoulos, and Eddie Hosbar. It was all our rookie years. We were all 6'2", 215 pounds. And of course, Freddie was famous for the Broad Street Bullies back in the 70s. And he said to us, he said, guys, you're not going to play the first 5 minutes of each game, and you're not going to play the last 5 minutes of each game. Now, I'm not telling you to fight, but what do you think you can do to help this hockey team? So we knew pretty clearly he wanted us to fight. So my first game in the NHL, we were up in Boston. And I hadn't been told that I made the team. I was with the club, but it hadn't officially been said you made the team. And I shot the puck in my own net. I tried to shoot it around behind the net. I hit John Davidson in the leg, went into our net. So that's my first game in the NHL. And now I'm thinking, I've worked all my life to get here. I've got my chance. And what do? I shoot my own net. So the next game, we go into Toronto, and I get butt-ended by Robert Picard right in front of our bench. And the bench jumped up, and like in a flash, I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I don't do something now, all my dreams of playing in the NHL are gone. So I stood up at center ice and just knocked him out cold.
That's
I didn't give him a
awesome.
chance. Yeah. The funny thing after that too was Daryl Sittler was with the team. He came skating over to me like, he had to kind of avenge his teammate. And I'm thinking to myself, I want to get his autograph. That's my thought process at the time. And he's coming over. So I had to kind of smack myself in the head, wake up a little bit. So I was at center ice having an FU fight with Daryl Sittler. So some great memories. And they told me to get a place to stay after the game too. So I made the team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Like, I know, like I looked at a couple of the guys that you fought. I mean, like, Daryl, was that one of the, was he actually, like, I know he was always known for that. Was he like actually as tough as they say he was?
Yeah, a great competitor, like obviously a fantastic player, but he was tough. He wouldn't back down from anybody. We played against him a lot. He was in Philly. Obviously, I was with the Rangers and played against him a lot too. So yeah, he was. It's one of those guys that you dream all your life of playing, and you're watching these guys on TV, and then you're out on the ice with them. And that's one of those things you kind of have to get over. Davey Keon, I actually went to his hockey school when I was a kid, and at the end of his career, he was in Hartford, and. But they had a rule at the time: whenever there's a fight, everybody had to separate, or else it was a 10-minute misconduct. We were so used to like not having that rule, we really didn't pay attention to it at first. And somebody else was fighting, and Davey Keon and I kind of paired up. But he was a tiny little guy who never fought, and I was supposed to be somewhat tough. And So I remember standing beside Davey Keon, like, I can't believe I'm standing beside Davey Keon in this fight. So both ended up getting 10-minute misconducts. And all my buddies are like, what are you doing fighting Davey Keon, for gosh sake? He's supposed to be a tough guy. So that was fun too. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, that's, even just those two, and I'm sure there was others in your career, but guys that, you look back on now and such a, like a, Daryl Sittler,
Yeah.
big name, obviously. Same with Dave Keon. Crazy though. And
Yeah.
I mean,
my first training camp, Phyllis Mazzito was still playing. He retired halfway through my rookie year. And so the old guys back then, they would come into camp way out of shape. The idea was yeah, I know. The logic was that they rested their body, had a longer training camp, 2-day practices, and that's how they got themselves in shape. So by the time the season started, they're ready to go. But for me as a rookie, I knew that I had to be in great shape. I didn't have that luxury the veteran players did. So when I came to my first camp, I was jacked. I was running hills. I was in shape and everything. So it's like really early in the camp, probably third or fourth day in camp, we're having a scrimmage, and Phyllis Mazzito was carrying the puck through the neutral zone. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's my job to hit it. I don't care who it is. It's my job to hit these guys. Knocked him right on his ass. And the building went dead quiet, because you weren't really supposed to hit especially the older guys that early in camp. But I thought I got to do it because I want to make the team. So the building went quiet. He got up and he was mad. He's yelling at me and everything. I'm thinking, it's one of those moments. What have I done? And everything settles down. We finish the scrimmage, go into the locker room, and he comes walking over to me in the locker room. I'm thinking, this is Phyllis Mazzito, you idiot. What have you done to Phil? And he comes over. He says, you really want to make the team, don't you? I said, yeah, Phil, I've dreamed of my whole life. And he says, well, I didn't like what you did there, but I respect you for doing it. So and don't do it again. He said to me, so let's get back out there. So it was, yeah.
Well, that's nice. Kind of a passing of the torch moment. And to say that, Phil Esposito comes up to you and says he respects you. I mean, yeah. I think you can hang your hat on that, even if you didn't make the team.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Yeah, the veteran players back then, a lot of great memories of guys like Carol Vadnais, Walt Kachuk, Phil Esposito. The culture was, even though like a guy like Carol Vadnais, I was coming in to take his job, but he didn't look, I think he viewed it that he'd had a fantastic career. He treated me great. Like he kind of took me under his wing, showed me all kinds of stuff, what kind of stick I should use. I had a small little blade. I was a defensive. He said, Tommy, you got to get the bigger blade. And he was great. He's fantastic. We had a kind of a bad moment. He'd been so good to me, like above and beyond. He really did so much extra stuff for me. We were in Winnipeg playing a game, and it was one of those games that every time you stepped on the ice, they scored against you. And it's like the score was like 10-1 or something. And I'd been on the ice. He scored a goal against. That had been talking to somebody else on the bench and did not see the goal, how the goal went in. So he very nicely and calmly said to me, Tommy, what happened on that play? And now I'm totally frustrated. So I said, I turned back to him. I said, the puck went in the effing net. And I didn't use the word effing. And he was just, because he'd been so good to me, it was totally uncalled for the way I handled things, but I was just so frustrated. And I went to him after the game and apologized, and he was in tears. And because our relationship had been fantastic. Again, I was totally disrespectful to him. I said I felt terrible because of that. But he was. We had one other funny moment. We were playing the Islanders in Long Island, and Clark Gillies, he was an animal. When he'd get mad, he had the one eyebrow going over the top of his head. And he says to me, start of the game, he says, Tommy, you go to the front of the net with that Gillies, you punch him right in the chest. So I go to the front net, and Gilly's standing there, so I punch him in the chest, the whistle blows, he turns and looks at me, that one eyebrow, and he goes, what do you want? And I feel like I'm looking over at Vad over the bench. I said, what do I do now? Like, this guy's going to kill me. So a lot of good memories of Vad. He's a great guy.
But was there ever a time when, like you said, like, you had to, you hit somebody, like you said, you knocked that guy out, and then, like, Daryl came over and says, it's go time. Was there ever a time when you, like, had to do that and you were like, oh fuck, like what I get myself into here?
Oh yeah, totally. I hit probably my third or fourth, maybe my second or third year in the league. We're in Edmonton, and luckily for me, it's Rangers against Edmonton, so there's really no rivalry there. It's like a random Tuesday night game, and I hit Wayne Gratson, knocked him on his rear end. And back then, when the whistle blew, there was no music playing in the ranks. It was like being at the ballet or something. It was just dead quiet in the building. And so I hit Wayne, whistle blows, and Sather stands up. He's got one foot on the boards, the other foot's on the bench, and he yells so everybody in the building can hear it. He says, "Laidlaw, you're going home in a body bag." So he taps Dave. He taps Dave Semenko on the shoulder. Semenko jumps over the boards, and I'm thinking, "Oh God, I can't." You want to run away, but there's nowhere you go. So Semenko, we all knew, like, found out later on, he'd like to have a few of the brown bottles, and I'm looking at him as he's skating towards me, and again, he's a scary looking man too, like Gilly. He's got the hair all over the place. And you can tell. I was thinking to myself, I'm looking at his face, and he's kind of got that look like he's just kind of disgusting. He doesn't want to fight me. He's not like scared of me. He's just like, geez, he fights every night, and he gets over to me. He kind of goes like, "Tommy, like, are you going to hit Wayne anymore tonight?" And I get up in his grill, right away. I don't want to make it look like I'm backing down to my teammates. And I said, "Dave, if you don't want me to hit him anymore tonight, I won't hit him anymore tonight." He was kind of relieved, not because he was afraid of me in any way. The guys are all coming over to pat him on the path. "That's the way, Tommy. That's the way, Tommy. That's the way to not back down." And but that was one of those moments where it was just nowhere to go, and you knew everybody in the building was watching this interaction.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments. One of the funniest moments, my favorite players all time was Larry Robinson. And again, it must have been the second or third year in the league, because I was an assistant captain at the time, and we're playing in the Montreal Forum. And Larry's like, you're on the ice with Larry again. He's one of those guys. It's like, he's a big man anyways. But I remember watching him play, play against the Philadelphia Flyers and knocking Gary Dornhofer on the boards and breaking the boards and all that stuff. And I just admired him so much. And there's something that happened. And so he was captain or assistant captain, and I was assistant captain. And we're both over there talking to the referee, trying to figure out what was going on. And all of a sudden, so I know Larry's beside me, but I don't want to turn and look at him. It's like I'm like a little kid, like there's Larry Robinson. And I hear this chirping, and it's not, there's only the three of us, and the referee's not talking to me. And Larry's talking to me. And I turn and look at him, and he goes, "What do you want, old man?" He called me old man. And I'm thinking, I had to catch my breath for a second. I said, "You're calling me old man?" And he turned away and he was laughing, skating away from me. So that was one of those moments too. It was like, holy smokes, like Larry Robinson's busting my chops here. It's pretty funny. Yeah, it's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I forget what movie it is, but almost like the Semenko situation where they're talking tough, but like both of them are like, "I don't want to fucking go."
Yeah.
So you're almost like, "Sorry, Mr. Semenko, this won't happen again."
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what the funny thing is? So I do all these podcasts now, and we get a lot of former guys and fighters on, and guys, tough guys, fighters. And pretty much, I would bet you 95% of them did not like fighting. They fought because they had to. And I think to myself, I wish I knew that more back then. The guys really didn't want to do it. But,
yeah.
Yeah, no, because I watched your episode, the episode with Terry Ryan, like you were talking to, and I mean, like, that guy could throw too, like,
Oh yeah.
And and he's, even you look at him now, you're just like, man, if I saw you in a back alley without that tooth, I mean, I'd be fucking scared for my life. I can tell you that.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, it was funny. When I came in, I could fight. Actually, when I was in college, I went to Northern Michigan. And I mean this very seriously. I actually really thought I was the toughest guy on the planet. I really did. We had Muhammad Ali came up for an exhibition fight, and I was working. They had me working security. So he comes walking by me, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm suckering him. I'm taking him down. I really thought I was that type. And obviously I didn't. But it's interesting because then you get to the NHL, and like I said, there's Gillies and Nystrom and Ben Wilson and Paul Holmgren and all the guys up in Boston. There's always tough guys. And then, so I thought, God, like I could fight, but do I really want to do this every night? And that's what it turns out to be. Those guys are those heavyweight fighters. They have to do it every night. So I proved that I could fight. And then actually when Herb Brooks came in my second year, he didn't want me fighting that much. It's not that he didn't want me fighting at all, but he didn't want me going out and being one of those guys. So I kind of fell into that role where I was that guy that was tough enough to stick up for your teammates, but really was just out there playing the game. So yeah, that's the fighting is you talk to all those guys the night before the game, they can't sleep, they know and it's not about fear as much. Like there's a lot. It's you, one man against one man. Like you're playing a team game, but in that situation, it's man on man. And yeah, it was fun. A lot of fun times.
Yeah, and there's not that much. Like, there's not.
I was cutting off circulation. I'm working with a handful of brain cells. I can't have them dying on me.
I'm the same way.
And like, nowadays it's not like that. Like, there's not those fighter guys. Like, like I think we've talked about this before. Like, there's a handful of guys that are like, like Ryan Reeves,
Yeah.
Nick Delorier, and like there's a handful of guys that you're like, hey, I'm probably gonna have to fight tonight. But like you said, mixed, like, you fought Marty McSorley. I mean, I don't know if that was something happened and you jumped in, or you knew that was going to happen. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, the game's really changed. Like the fighting was a strategy, the intimidation was a strategy, and that's just not the case now. And to me, the game is fantastic today. It's just a different game entirely. So for older guys like me that grew up in a different era, it sometimes get a little frustrated because you see things happen out there and you think you shouldn't be allowing that to happen. But again, the game's changed in so many good ways too. So, well, like Marty's case, like Marty was a great example. I ended up playing with Marty in LA too, so we got to be teammates after. But he was one of those guys, and I mean this with total respect. When he first started, he could not play. Like he couldn't. He was a terrible skater, but he knew, to his credit, with his heart, he said, if I'm going to make it to the NHL, I have to be fighting every night. So that was probably, I'm guessing 4 years into my career. And still, I thought, I'm a pretty decent, tough guy, So I really didn't know who Marty was. I found out later on, but so he came in and there was a scrum going on. He came right to me, and we went at it. It was a pretty good scrap. I was happy. He got some on me. I got some on me. But the funny thing was, though, once I showed him that I would fight him, every game after that, he needed to fight somebody. He'd come to me no matter what was going on in the game. He's, Laidlaw, let's go. Laidlaw, let's go. And I said to him after a while, I said, I am not keeping you in the league. Get away from me. But he'd go find somebody else. But again, I really made this a compliment to him. I have total respect for him. By the time I was playing with him in LA, he had really become a complete player and really could power play, penalty kill, and regular shifts. But again, to his credit, he continued to be that tough guy too. He didn't change his game and say, I'll just be a player now. So again, he had a huge heart. And again, that really matters because the progress he made as a player from when he first started to where he ultimately became was huge. So it was good.
So of all the guys that you played against or that you did fight, who's one tough son of a bitch you would not want to go with? Regardless if he asked you or not, you're at center ice, you're saying no. Or is there nobody that you would say no to?
Well, you really can't say no. Like a guy like myself could not say no. Like obviously Wayne Gretzky's going to say no. The skilled players. But for me, I couldn't afford to say no. So I had to show people that, listen, I'm tough enough that if you want to fight me, I'll fight, and I could beat you. But I'm not that guy that goes out looking for it and starting it every night. But I tell you, some of the guys, I'm trying, like a guy like Bob Nystrom. I always respected him a ton because he would fight anybody and never quit. My rookie year, we were playing a rookie game the night before, so it's all the rookies. It's all the rookies, and they had a guy for the Islanders by the name of Hector Marini, and he was a decent, tough guy, and I knew he was a tough guy. And I think it may have been my first or second game getting going, and I had that reputation. I broke a stick over my head in college and stuff. Like I had that reputation of being a nutcase. And so I figured, okay, we went at it, and I beat him pretty good. And he was, to his credit, he was a tough guy too. And so right away after that, I wasn't planning on playing. They weren't planning on playing me the next game of NHL players against the Islanders, but they threw me in the lineup now because they saw that fight, and now they wanted to see how I was going to go. And right away, Nystrom came over to me and bumped me. Nothing major, just like kind of like, okay, checking me out a little bit and checking the tires. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, like, okay, I want to fight him, but think, oh God, if I don't fight him now, I'm going to have to fight this guy every game we play him. So I don't know if I consciously made the decision. I said, okay, I'm going to play hard against him. But if he wants to fight, obviously I'll fight, but I'm not going to go looking for it. And I think that's what he wanted to know. Okay, how are we going to do this? Probably his coaches said Laidlaw's pretty good. Looks like he's going to make the team. So you guys are going to be playing against each other all the time. And that's what happened with the coaches. They would always put me against Nystrom and Nystrom against me, just more because of the physical players. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, but we played in a playoff game one time, and I'd had a pretty strong game and was banging a few guys. He right late in the game, like last shift, came in and gave me a forearm shiver right in the jaw, knocked me out. Actually, I wasn't out cold, but I didn't know where it was. But I finished the game, came into the locker room, and just passed out in the locker room. I spent the night in the hospital. And I said to somebody at another interview how much I respected Bob Nystrom, and I told the story about him knocking me out. They said, "Hold on a second. So you respect this guy, and he knocked you out cold?" And I didn't really dawn on me how that sounded until I said it, and then he asked me a question. And it's just the way it went. I think because we played so hard against each other. John Tonelli's another guy we played against. John and I played against each other a lot. We ended up being teammates out in L.A. and best of friends now. I love the guy. Total respect for him. I think it's that thing that you just wanted to kill each other. Like the Islanders, as much as they beat us, like we had Clark Gillies on our show of podcast one time, and he told us that in '84, Kenny Morrow scored a winning goal in overtime in Game 5 to that was a deciding game to eliminate us and let them go on to what would be their 5th time going to the finals. Ultimately, they lost to the Oilers. And Gillies told us, he said, we all thought that if you guys beat us, that we could have won the Stanley Cup that year. So there's that, it was a rivalries. We had rivalries against Flyers and the Islanders, but we much more respected the Islanders than we did the Flyers. The Flyers would do stuff that was just, it made no sense whatever. That's a lot of the reason why we beat them a lot of time in the playoffs. But the Islanders were those, you could play any way you want to play. You want to rough it up, we'll do that. If you want to just run and gun, we'll do that. So a ton of respect for those guys.
I know you said, you were coached under Herb Brooks. And obviously Herb Brooks, well-known coach, especially after the Miracle. And his famous speech that he gave to the team while they were playing the Soviet Union. Was there any speeches like that he gave you guys in the locker room?
I don't think it would be that like one motivational speech. He did a lot of things. Like he was a master at getting to know the players and how they thought and treating each one differently. So I'd had a good rookie year. I'd scored like 6 goals, 23 assists. And then going into my second year, I thought, I'm going to be a good two-way defenseman here. Thinking I got 6 last year, I'll maybe get 10 or 12 this year. But he had different plans for me. He wanted me to be a strictly defensive defenseman. So we, at the end of training camp, my second year, his first year, we're at our practice facility the day before our first game, and he had a meeting at center ice, and he was saying, Barry Beck, you're the captain, you're a leader. Rod Gresher, you run the power play. Steve Vickers, this is your role. On and on to everybody. He got to me at the end, and he said right in front of everybody. And again, I thought I really had that good rookie year. He says, Laidlaw, if you get the puck, give it to somebody else. You're not supposed to have it. And yeah, exactly right. So the guys are dying laughing, and I'm thinking, you jerk. Like I felt good about my game. I came to find out later on that he really liked me, and he thought I was tough enough mentally to handle that kind of stuff. But he was also sending a message to me that he wanted me to play a certain way. What he was really good about was after that, he would then follow up with that. If I was going to go out and do what he wanted me to do, he would then, like last 30 seconds of a game before killing a penalty, he would always come down to me and put me on the ice. So it was a two-way street. I gave him what he wanted. He gave me the ability to be a big role and play a big role on the team. And he was funny. He'd come down, and again, I didn't understand why he was doing this. And I get it. I do a lot of mental health studying now and everything. And he would come down and kick me in the rear end, like literally kick me. And he'd go, Laidlaw, get the F out there. And it would just jack me up so much. I would fly. I didn't matter how tired I was or whatever. So what he was doing, he was sending a message to me that I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you're hurt. You are the one. I want you on the ice. And that to me was like the ultimate compliment, right? For a guy like me, it was like, it didn't matter. Like, give me a piece of wood, slap some tape on it, and let's go play. And so he was good. He played a big role in my career. He played a big role in my life too. Like he had a saying in practice, like if we weren't passing the puck well enough, he would stop practice and he would just get intense. Like he'd go, passes come from the heart. And he'd really he'd just wire a pass on somebody's tape. And it really wasn't like, this is one of the great things about him. Yes, it was about hockey, but it was also about life. That if you're going to do something, put your heart into it. Mm-hmm. So he was like I said, really into understanding and really going into everybody's background and talking to their coaches and understanding who they were as people and what made them tick. So he was great. He was a fantastic coach, maybe a little bit ahead of his time. And he was also, as he was in the movie where he had the training camp at the start of the movie and he picked the team without consulting with anybody else.
Yeah. That was after the first day. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was her. That was the way he was. And that's why he had,
so they depicted him very well. That was
my next question.
Absolutely, 100%. The way he skated, the way he spoke, it was great. It really made, when I watched it probably like everybody 20, 25 times, and it really amazed me. Yeah, he was, Yeah, and that really got him in trouble. So at MSG at Madison Square Garden, it's a really corporate environment, and there's bosses, and you do what you're told. Herb just couldn't survive, and that's one of the big reasons he got fired, because he just couldn't survive in that environment for very long. So, yeah, great man. I've kept in touch with his family. Actually, it was interesting. His son Danny, I was his favorite player too, so I've kept in touch with Danny. And
there you go.
Yeah, the kid needed some mentoring, obviously, taking me.
I love it. So you were pretty much the player that, like you said, like after when you turned into the one-way defenseman, it was like you said you didn't go to fight, but it was like, if I'm on the ice, your picture was, if I'm on the ice, don't fuck around, or I'm going to do something, and that, like, I love that. That's I mean,
and you know what it was? It was to hammer every guy. Like, I had to be consistent. Grew up on a dairy farm in Canada. I didn't realize how much. Oh yeah.
Yeah, my dad's a dairy farmer right now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, it was one of those things that when you're a kid growing up on the farm, you don't want to be on the farm, right? But then you look back later on and all the lessons you've learned from it.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, every day, as you know, having a dairy farm, it's showing up every day, 7 days a week. Those cows have to get milked every day. No excuses. We didn't have a big enough farm that it was my father, grandfather, and I helped a little bit as I got older. But what it really taught me was that how, if I was going to be successful, I was never the best player on any team I ever played on. It was to show up every day and do my job. And my job was to be physical. So it was to build that reputation that the guys who were going to play against me knew that I was going to hit them every opportunity I got. I look back, there was somebody sent me a video. We played in my rookie year, we played LA in the playoffs. And back then they ranked them 1 through 16, all the playoff teams. And we didn't have a good year. I think we were like 13th or 14th. LA obviously had a good year. And I remember the coaching staff said, I can't remember who it was. There was a physical player on LA. And the coaches said to me, your only job, Tom, is to hit that guy every time he's on the ice. So I watched the video and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like that, I watched all the hits. I was like, and I was throwing my body at him too, It's like, so it's funny looking back to those memories. But again, just like you'll go back to the farm days, it was that. And I teach a lot of kids now too. And I say that to them. I said, don't worry if you're not the best player on the team now. Just show up every day and do your job. So now that next coach at that next level, he's going to see, okay, I don't expect Laidlaw to be the number 1 defenseman. He's going to be my number 3 defenseman, but I know what I'm going to get from him almost every day. So that's all penciled. And that's really the success I had. Same thing when I got in the agent business after playing, where it was like my clients knew that I'd always be there for them. And that's really my True Good Life stuff that I do. It's all the motivational work. It's every day getting up at 3:30, posting a video at 3:53 on Instagram at 3:54. Some people are like, okay, so somebody say, like, you do that every day? That's the way I realized that's the way I have really lived my life. I really didn't have to change a lot. And that's all the reason I have success. And I think that's important for people to learn, that if you want to be successful at something, it's that constant discipline about having your process. It doesn't have to be my process. It's your process. And you do that all the time and you'll be successful in things.
Your process is inspirational though. Like I wake up, 5 a.m. to go to the gym, and first thing I do is I wake up, just check notifications or whatever, and it's always a Tom Laidlaw video, first thing I see on Instagram, and you're just lifting some heavy circles, and I'm just like, son of a bitch.
Yeah. You know what it is too? We last year in the playoffs, the Rangers were playing in Raleigh against the Hurricanes. Yeah. And the Rangers do a lot of good things. So it took about 80 fans on a private plane down to Raleigh, watch the game, and then fly back after. So myself and Ron Gresser kind of went along as the entertainment. And so we didn't get home until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And they all knew that I got up at 3:30. And they're going, you're not getting up at 3:30 now, are you? And I said, oh, yeah, definitely. And what's happened with me now is I've learned to so if I know I'm in a situation like that and I'm going to be tired, I super motivate myself. I'm super disciplined. I'm super focused. So that ended up being my workout. Get up at 3:30. My workout at 4:30 after getting home at 2 o'clock was one of the best workouts I ever had, because I focused so hard. I made myself do it. And again, that's what I really. A lot of people, especially young people now, will say, I can't do this. It's going to be hard to do. Well, yeah, it's going to be hard to do. There's no question. And maybe you're not as motivated some days, but you can always have discipline. You can always do what you're supposed to do. And you can build on that too. You can make yourself more disciplined all the time.
You got that like power lifter, bodybuilder mentality where it's like, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And again, that's the thing. Like some people, like I watched David Coggins. You guys know who he is, a former Navy SEAL.
Yeah, David Coggins. Yeah.
I saw an interview, I think he was doing with Joe Rogan, and he was laughing. He's saying, like, people think I'm this superhuman human being that I just get out of bed and I fly around with a cape or something like that. He's pretty funny when he's saying it. He says, but there's some days I sit there and I look at my running shoes and I need to go running. I'll sit there for 30 minutes looking at my running shoes and just like saying, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. That's my discipline. So yeah, it's people. That's the big thing. People say, well, how do you always stay motivated? Well, you don't. It's that discipline to do what you need to do. Listen, I love going out. I love going out and having a few cocktails too. You know, I like my tequila and grapefruit juice, and people think, well, you can't, drink this. Yeah, but if I have a few cocktails at night, and I've got to get up at 3:30 no matter what. You just don't break that no matter what happens. Like, that's a vow to yourself. There's no negotiation. There's no you don't do random things. You say, I'm getting up at 3:30. You get up at 3:30 no matter what.
Do you need an alarm clock to get up at 3:30, or is it
Yeah, it's a great question. I have my iPhone and I have an alarm on it, and usually I'm up before the alarm. Like, now it's gotten to the point. My son got me going. My youngest son, he's almost turned 30, and he said to me years ago, I said, Dad, you really should brand yourself more. And I think branding, like, what am I going to get, a wrought iron or something like that, heat it up and stab myself with that? That's what I thought branding was. And he said, Dad, you get on Facebook and Instagram. So I said, all right, I'll give it a try. And so that really got me going to do things. So now that's probably like 6 years ago. So now at 3:30, by 3:30, like I am fired up at 3:30. It's like, now, like, people say, well, what do you do for fun in your life? I said, well, I get up. I love my life. I've learned to make myself make myself a better person. I make my life better. And what's happened then is some of the negative people in my world will kind of drift away. It's not like I'm mad at them or whatever, but they're just not part of what I'm doing. And then you meet more positive people, and the more that happens, you meet more positive people. You have more great opportunities, like going on Survivor. I get asked by the people at the State Department here in the U.S. to be an ambassador of sport, to go into countries and maybe show the people there, particularly the kids, that not all Americans are bad people. Yeah, I know, through ball hockey. So it's when that kind of stuff happens, it's like, man, this is pretty cool. The life I'm leading. Yeah, so it's cool.
So random question. You have your alarm set. I know I have an iPhone. What is your chosen tone to wake you up? Like what noise did you choose?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know what I did? I don't think I actually selected whatever was the default one was.
Yeah.
That's cool though. Maybe I might change that and do something more like pumped up. I've really learned too. So I'm constantly trying to evolve. There's a former player, you may know him, Jim Thompson. You guys heard of Jim Thompson?
I have not, no.
Yeah, I played with him out in LA. A really great guy. I was just leaving the game and he was just getting started. So we kind of stayed in touch. And he's gone through a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol, really cleaned up his life, has got a fantastic family now, clean and sober. He runs a hockey camp somewhere around Toronto. So we did a podcast together, and he was telling me how he grew up in like a really rough environment outside of Edmonton in a trailer park. And the trailer park number, his trailer number was 353. So I was getting out and doing my most motivating video early in the morning at random times, like 350, 355. He said, Tom, it would really mean a lot to me if you would do it every day at 353. So I started doing it for him at 353. The benefit I got, though, was it upped my discipline level another notch. So that video goes out. So by the time I get it over to Facebook, it's 354, but it has to be consistent like that at 353 and 354. So another thing that I've learned is that if you're doing things for other people all the time, you end up getting things back in return that you may not understand. So in that case, again, my life is so much about discipline and teaching other people to have discipline. And here I was doing something for somebody else that actually helped me some more. So that was a great lesson for me. I think I already knew it, but kind of just reinforced that idea that, there's a Shawnee warrior chief called Tecumseh back in the 1800s. And it was this, heroic warrior, but he wrote this fantastic poem about how to live your life, and part of it is to help other people in the world. And so I've been fortunate. Again, like, the more I do stuff, the more I meet great people, the more stuff I learn. We do an event at Lower Manhattan. They swim from Statue of Liberty. Back up. These Navy SEALs, about 200 Navy SEAls, to raise money for other veterans. They do a swim across the Hudson, and they swim from Statue of Liberty over to Lower Manhattan. They stop at 2 barges. They do 22 pull-ups and 100 push-ups on each barge. 22 pull-ups are to signify the average number of suicides every day amongst veterans. So we help out. I really don't do much. It's more hanging out with the guys and doing stuff they need. But I get to hang out with these guys, and they're tremendous people. You think, these warriors, but they're really intelligent, thoughtful men. Like when you engage in a conversation with them, they're fully invested. Like if they ask you a question, it isn't just a random question. They want to know the answer. And I really learned a lot from them about the way they lead their lives, about how they're always trying to get better. That when they train, if they're going out on a 6-month deployment, they train for 18 months, and they train to the point where they fail because they want to know where that failure is. So when they get out there in their mission, now this is where we failed before, so now we need to adapt out here. So it's also like a great thing about life too, teaching especially young people that the two certainties life, that you are going to make mistakes and that life is unfair, and that you need to know that and prepare for that. So once those things happen, you're not sitting around whining and complaining. You said, okay, I knew this was coming, now let's get up and get going again, right? And that's a lot what you learn from the Navy SEALs.
I just want to show Adam here because your videos motivate me. I started at the gym about 2 months ago. I'm down 70 pounds in
Nice.
those 2 months. Thank you.
Cool.
But my motivation, my 5 a.m. alarm every day. Look at the ringtone. I'm going to play you the ringtone right now. Can you hear that?
No, I couldn't hear it.
So it's the Survivor theme song.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So
cool.
that's my 5 a.m. alarm every morning. Nice. Is I wake up to the Survivor theme song.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a blast. I'll tell you, that whole process. They first came to me. I guess Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer, owns a piece of Amazing Race, Big Brother, and Survivor.
Yeah.
So he came to the NHL. He's a huge hockey fan. I think he owns a piece of the Kraken. And he asked the NHL to get a couple of older guys. Wasn't necessarily just me, to go on Amazing Race. And I got in trouble for it. I said I tried to find some guys around my age, but I told everybody publicly, and I shouldn't have done this, but I said all the guys around my age were fat and out of shape. So they were they were not too happy when they heard that comment. So that obviously then it didn't work out for Amazing Race. They then asked me about Survivor, and I went through the process. We had to go to LA for casting, and that was a blast. I've done many interviews. So it's a whole interview process. There's physical testing, psychological testing, and one of the first interviews was with Jeff Probst, and the lead producer, and some people from CBS, and. Yeah, I walked in there cocky too. Like, Probst is sitting on the couch. He's a tiny little guy. So I walk in, I got the black t-shirt on. I'm jacked up and everything. I just get right up in front of him and say, "Hey, Proby, you're mine from now on. You're mine." And he's dying laughing because most of these people are young kids and they're kind of nervous coming to the meeting. Yeah. So we laughed and joked around. They said, "Do you have all your teeth?" And I said, "Yeah, I paid for them, so they're mine." And talked about how I broke some of my teeth as well. I opened some beer bottles with my teeth back when I was really intelligent, my teenage years. Yeah. So they're dying laughing, because most people come in there are a little bit more timid and everything. So he turns to this two women from CBS that were in the meeting right in front of me, and he says, "So you guys like him?" And one woman goes, "Yeah, I like him. He's confident but not cocky." And the other woman goes, "Are you kidding me? He's totally cocky." And you're kind of going for that, right? Because you want that personality going. So it was a blast. So I've broken both my wrists, so my wrists don't bend back. So when I do push-ups, I do push-ups on my knuckles, and I'm not trying to be a tough guy. It just doesn't work any way. So they had us doing some testing where you do, I can't remember what it's called. You've got your butt up in the air, your hands are down, and your legs are down, and you're doing some crawl, and the bear crawl or something it's called. So we're on the cement floor, and I'm doing it on my knuckles, and these young kids are looking at me and they're scared. They're like, "This guy, there's something wrong with this guy."
A fucking ape just on his knuckles. Yeah.
So we got done, and they very calmly go, they didn't want to stir the pot. Like they're afraid that I was going to get mad or something. They go, "We've never seen anybody do that before." So I was like, "I'm not trying. I don't have a choice." So that was a blast. It was good. So then they don't tell you you're on Survivor yet. They tell you they're going to call you in a couple of weeks. But they do a few things like that. They don't want you to exactly know what's going on. Obviously, if you've been on the show before, you know what's going on. So in my case, they didn't call me a couple of weeks. So I thought I wasn't on the show. And then probably about 2 months after that, they called. I think part of it is they don't want you to know for too long, because they run the risk that you then tell people that you're on the show.
And prepare and kind of get a game plan going.
Yeah, totally.
They want you scrambling.
Yeah, they really do. And that's the same way once you're out there too. There's some of the challenges there's one where there's a ladder that was tied to the ocean floor.
Yeah.
And they told us it was like 4 feet under the water, like 4 feet of water. Ended up being like 20 feet of water. So it was yeah. So they do a lot of things like that to not let you get too prepared. But it was a blast. It was one of the funniest things out there is that you don't think about. The show is for real. There's no toilets, no toilet paper. There's no beds, there's no food. What you see there is for real. But you don't think through the process. Like you got to go to the bathroom. And you think, well, how am I going to? Like you get out there and you think, what am I going to do? The leaves are all bugs on them. There's nothing to wipe yourself with.
Yeah.
So they teach you to do an aqua bomb. You go out in the ocean, and it's the funniest thing because so you do your business, and now all your feces is floating on the top of the water, and you're trying to get out of the water. It's the ocean. The waves are crashing in, and your own poop is chasing you around.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish they had videoed it because I was doing it myself. I was dying laughing. Like if somebody had seen me doing it, they would have been cracking up. It was funny.
Yeah. So how strange is it to have? I mean, you were probably used to being around cameras and that doing interviews in the NHL and that kind of thing. And like how weird is it? You guys are a secluded island, no food, no conventional toilet. Like you're boiling water, no beds. But then you have this camera crew around you 24/7. Like, they're going back to camp when you're done. Like, is it weird to almost not break that? Yeah. What do they call it? Is it the third wall?
Yeah.
Like, how strange is that?
Yeah, after a while, it doesn't seem strange at all. Yeah, and for me, as a matter of fact, I don't think it ever seemed strange. I think you knew going out there that was going to be the case. But it is, I'll tell you, there's some times where, they're going back to camp and they're partying back there too. They've got, young girls there. We went back there at the end of when we got voted off, or we were going off the show because we didn't make the jury. We had a little get together with producers, so we went back to main camp and they were partying, the music's going and everything, and they were having a good time. So yeah, then you're stuck out there sleeping in the dirt, the bamboo.
Yeah,
but you know what though? I think you're so into the game. Like the strategy, because you're always strategizing, eat like 24 hours a day, because people are getting up in the middle of the night. They may be going to the bathroom, or they're going to go strategize. You're sleeping beside people. You try to sleep beside the same person all the time. It seemed like, so now you get to be friends with that person in the middle of the night. You're kind of whispering strategy. They want all interaction on camera. So when we go for casting in LA before the show, there's like 20 contestants there staying in the hotel. We're there for 5 days. We can't talk to the other contestants at all. They don't want us. Like,
but are you doing the training together? Like when you were saying you're doing the bear crawl, like was this as a group of 20 people? It's one-on-one.
One-on-one. Yeah, they keep you separate.
Okay.
When we did the psychological testing and you're filling out tests, then they would have us all in one room. But they have people spotting and watching all the time, young people, and they're rude. Like by intention, they want them to be rude. Like they want us to make us feel uncomfortable. So if we ever try to cheat and talk to somebody, they say, "Hey, keep down over there." And again, I was 60 years old.
Yeah,
well, I'm 60 years old, and I got these 21-year-olds yelling at me. Hey, back off, like what? Yeah. So. But they know exactly what they want. They do so many way more psychological testing than anything else. And I think it's, first of all, can you handle it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's also, they know now after doing it for, in my case, we're season 39, so 20 years of doing it, exactly what they want. Like they know. So Probst, and I really love this that they saw it. I mean, kind of a compliment. So Probst got interviewed by Canada, ET Canada. Mm-hmm. And so I was obviously the first Canadian on the show. And so they asked about that, and Probst said, so he knew my psychological profile from all the testing I did, because we really didn't know each other at all. It's not like, I'd spoken to him, but it's not like we spent enough time together, he would know me. And what he said was that I respected everybody, women, children, people, and like he got that from the testing. So for me, like doing the stuff I'm doing, that meant a lot to me, that's how it came out. And so yeah, they really do get to know you.
So like what kind of tests are they running to like test your psychological? Like what kind of questions are they asking?
Yeah. So there's all these tests now, like a lot of employers, when they hire somebody, there's these tests, these standardized tests that they do to really test their character. And they design the questions in a way that you can't figure out what the answer should be. It's like, it's really random stuff. Like, if you're driving to the grocery store, you see an old lady on the side of the street, do you stop and help her, or do you drive right by? Stuff like that. But then the follow-up question also pertains to that question. So you really can't figure out how to answer the question properly. And when you're doing it, you realize that, so you answer the question honestly because you don't know how the results should look. And again, lots of testing. And even after I got back, because I'd had so many concussions, they wanted to retest me again at a local doctor here where I live. So that was the big thing. The physical testing that was there, but there's lots of players that go out there that are just not physical at all. But we're gonna change that. You've lost 70 pounds already?
Yeah.
That's excellent. Congratulations. That's serious.
Thank you.
That's a really good discipline. So you've shown you've got that. You can keep going and get better. If you want my help, you can contact me and we'll help in that.
There you go.
I appreciate that. That gives me even more motivation. Maybe 4:45 now.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Definitely. And you know what? It's the thing I'll say to you over and over. We want progress, not perfection. You're not going to be perfect. You'll have bad days and good days. And it's really just that consistent discipline about doing it all the time. Like I tell people that get started on a fitness program, I'm not as concerned about your weight. I want you to have a healthy lifestyle. The weight will come off with that healthy lifestyle, but the healthy lifestyle is both physical and mental too. Like it's making yourself stronger mentally as well as physically. It's so much easier. There's so many things you can do, to get yourself out of the comfort zone. What I've learned with mental health is that basically from the last trimester in the womb up until about 8 years old, all the things that happen to you, any traumas, any positive things or negative things, that really shapes your subconscious mind. And then around 8 years old, it kind of like there's a cap that goes over your subconscious mind to say, okay, this is who you are now. So all the things that happen to you after that, your subconscious mind will tell you, well, this is what happened last time. Don't let that happen to you to protect you. But you can always change that. You can go to the extremes and do hypnosis, but there's also, it's just the ability to say to yourself over and over, you are what you say you are. So if you want to, if you say to yourself, I can't, this is hard, I'm not worth it, I'm no good, all those negative things, that's what your body is hearing. So that's how it reacts. You tell yourself you're good, you will be good. I say, people, get in front of the mirror and stand there and tell yourself you're a fantastic human being. Don't be afraid to do that. So I've really become a big believer more and more in how important the mind is and how important the mind is to your body as well. I get people when they start a program, I'll say, listen, I know it's going to sound kind of weird. I want you to get in your underwear, go stand in a room by yourself in front of the mirror, take a picture of yourself, and then put that picture away and don't look at it for 3 months, because we don't look at day-to-day progress. It's a long-term process about getting better and better. And then when they go back to look at that picture after 3 months, they go, wow, that's pretty good. And again, that's why I think it's important when I go in the mirror, in the gym, they've got all the mirrors. Before I was like, why the heck do they have so many mirrors in the gym? But I think it's important to really look, you're in the gym, you're there to make yourself better physically and mentally. So look in the mirror, check yourself out and go, hey, there's progress, but don't look too long. You've got more work to do, right? So get back at it. So.
No, that's 100% true. And I know that was big for me, was fixing the mental before I was able to work on the physical.
Yes, absolutely. Like for me, and again, I teach this stuff to people, and I help my coach and everything. But I've been divorced twice, in and out of relationships all the time. And it's kind of become a joke that every woman I meet has something wrong with her. She's a nutcase. And I've got a really good friend of mine that helps me with my Full Change podcast. And we sit around and talk about things and tell old stories. And he's just a, good family man and everything. And one day he looks at me and goes, let's get this straight. So every woman you meet's nutty. You've got 2 divorces. What do you think the common denominator in all those relationships is? So I'm thinking about, what are you talking about? And he goes, the common denominator, Tom. What is that? And it was me. I had to, it's just like you. I had to realize, and again, David Coggins, I saw him do a video recently, another one. It was fantastic. He said, listen, you need to make yourself vulnerable. You need to look back at your past, figure out why you're acting the way you are now, where's the trauma coming from, and fix yourself. But at first, you need to make yourself vulnerable. You need to admit that you are not perfect. And especially as a man, like we're trained to never feel, seem like you're weak or whatever.
Yeah.
But I met this fantastic woman here recently. And I was like, I really liked her and everything. We were talking on the phone. And all of a sudden I started talking about like so I have like abandonment issues from my past. And I'm starting to tell her this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, what am I doing? It was coming out of my mouth. And I'd never done it before. But I felt so vulnerable and weak. But she was fantastic. Obviously, for some reason, I picked the right woman to do it with. So she accepted it and was totally positive. Like in fact, she said, like, Tom, that was fantastic. Like that was so refreshing to have somebody talk like that. So it's important to do. You're so right. If you're going to get yourself right physically, you've got to get your mind right too. It's good. Good job, buddy. Seriously, you should be very proud of yourself for what you're doing.
I am, and that was I was always in my head the the type cast of like the Jonah Hill, where it's kind of like the
big funny guy.
Yeah, the big funny guy, and that was my entire life. Where it's just I'll be the butt end of the joke. It's easy to play that. To play that role, and it took very little effort on my part. But I needed to see myself as more and respect myself more before I made the change that I wanted to see.
That's excellent. When I first got done playing, I got in the Asian business right away, representing the players, and things went well. I just got done playing, knew lots of people in the game, so I was getting all these clients. And these young kids after a game would be calling me like at 11 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night. And I was still in the old hockey player mode where I was, when I played, it was drinking beer every day. So, I kept in the same mode. And these kids were calling at night and I'm having like 6, 8, 10 beers. And now I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking, okay, was I slurring my words? Do I remember everything the player said? And it really scared me. And I thought because again, when you're in the hockey world, you're in the middle of it, everybody's doing it. So you don't think anything of it. That's just the way that back then in the 80s, that's the way it was. So I figured, okay, I'm going to, slow down. I'm going to drink every night. And then all of a sudden I got to the point where I said, I didn't drink for 5 years. And it's funny looking back at it now where you were saying how everybody, looked at you a certain way. I had got in that groove where I was the guy that everybody went to have a beer with. Now I was stopping to drink. And my biggest concern, and it's funny looking back at it now, was what are people going to think of me because I'm not drinking anymore? And it actually concerned me. And I think back now, like, why was I thinking that way? Because first of all, nobody cared. They were having their beers. They could care less. That's what I was having mine. And why do I care? Why do they care what everybody else thought? I was doing something that's right for me. You're doing something that's right for you. And it's got to be your thing. And it's got to be my thing. It can't be everybody else's thing. It's what they think is irrelevant. So.
No, 100%. And it's refreshing to hear, even though, I look at you and I'll look at the videos, like I said, first thing in the morning and you're crushing these weights. And this video was posted, 2 hours ago. Yeah. But it's nice to know that you have also went through that where you were, I don't want to say reinvent because I wouldn't say it's that dramatic, but you wanted to be an elevated version of yourself.
Yeah.
And you wanted to kind of write that path that you were going down a little bit. So totally. It's nice to know, regardless of the different walks of life we had, that we're all on the same journey. Yeah, and it's all the same process.
Totally. And we're all flawed, right? We all make mistakes. And that, you're right. That was a big thing for me to learn. So again, I was teaching these people about mental health. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. And then when I finally looked in the mirror, I said, okay, Tom, you're telling everybody else what you should do. You need to do it. And then, like you said, I found that I was setting a better example because here people view me a certain way, right? Up at 3:30, pounding the weights, consistent discipline, never quitting, all that stuff. But I showed them that, listen, I have my issues as well. I have my flaws myself, and I need to fix things. I need to work on it. And you have to continue to work on it too. And you know what? I think we'll always find more things inside of ourselves that we can fix along the way. We'll never be perfect, and we don't want to be perfect, right? We want to get better all the time. So,
no, and it's like I said, it's to me motivation. Just hearing you talk like that, where I'm just like, for everybody, they kind of set a different goal. And let's say I was like, you know what, I want to look like Tom, or I want to be like Tom. There's somebody that you're probably like, you know what, I want to be like this person. I want to get to that level. I want to do this.
But that's a great point. It's good to have that target. But I think it's also important to say, like, okay, so I love Joe Rogan, watching him do his podcast. But I'm not going to be Joe Rogan. I'm going to be Tom Laidlaw. So the only thing I'd add to your statement there is like, be you, but be a better version of you every day. And that's really, to me, what your target should be. I know when I first started doing all the motivational stuff, I was working with a Navy SEAL doing a podcast, and we were going to do a ruck. If you know what a ruck is, it's basically a backpack. And then you put weight, depending on your athletic ability, you put a certain amount of weight in. If you're really in good shape, you put more weight in. And you go on a hike or a march or whatever. And we thought, okay, I've got this Navy SEAL, I've got a trainer of mine, this really top-notch trainer, and myself. Well, nobody was signing up for it. So I contacted some of the people. I said, well, why did you sign up? He said, Tom, I can't go. I'm totally intimidated. It's a Navy SEAL, it's you, and it's a trainer. And I realized, my message had to be more don't be like anybody else. Be like you. Right? So we kind of had to soften the stance a little bit to say, listen, just go to your level, and that's that just get better every day.
Yeah.
So I think it's right. Like I watch guys like David Coggins, I watch Jocko Willink, and I total respect for them. What they've done in their life and what they're doing now and motivating other people. But they're harder than me. Like they more focus on a different group of people. I think that they're like, get the F up. Well, okay, well, yeah, I know I need to get up, but you show me how to get up, right?
Mhm.
And again, I hope I say that the right way because I have utmost respect for them. They're fantastic. It's just that I think their target audience is a little bit different than mine. So
I think they're so intense, those two guys. Like I know like David Goggins is a retired Navy SEAL, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And he used to be a fat guy.
Yep.
And he lost a bunch of weight. Like he tells the story on Joe Rogan. The first time he ran like a so-called marathon, it was in like an Olympic circle where you just go around as much as you can until you can't. And he like lasted like 30 minutes and like passed out. And and then he's like, at that point, I realized how weak of a man I was, and I'd have to,
and that's a great example too. I did a podcast with this Navy SEAL. His name's Tom Shea. And I think he was awarded the Silver Star. I'm pretty sure that's what he awarded. He does a lot of podcasts, get a book out and everything. And he talked about how he'd gone over to Afghanistan with like a team of SEALs, and their mission was to kill as many of the enemy as possible. And they got in this big firefight, and he was leading into this question. He knew what he was doing. He was good. He got in this big firefight. They ran out of ammunition, and they had to drop in like one of those danger close bombs that could land on them potentially, but they had to do it to take out the enemy. So it didn't land on them, but it was close enough that it blasts them back into this building. And he's laying there and thinking, like, do I just lay here and die, or what do I do? So he got up and he started to fight. So I asked him the question. And again, this is where he led me right to the question. He was good. I said, so like, what happened? Like, did some music go off in your head, like some motivational music or whatever to get you going? He goes, no, Tom, no. He jumped right on it. It was great the way he said it. He says, all I needed to do, there's hundreds of them, but I need to concentrate on the one that was 3 meters in front of me. Once I took him out, then I took the next one that was 3 meters in front of me. And then once he's done, then I take the next. And he used it as a fantastic lesson for life too. That when things are coming at you, there's some big daunting task or you've got a dream, don't look at the big daunting task. Just look at the next thing that you need to do in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in life too. It's like, it's something, if you want a job or some young person wants to play in the National Hockey League, great. Have the dream, put it off to the side. Okay, let's get to work now. So what do I have to do? Well, I've got to go lift weights. I've got all the different things I do in life. One of the big lessons I've learned too, like from hockey, I'm sure you guys know, they call it closing the gap, right? So I'm a defensive defenseman, offensive guy's coming at me. The more room I give him, more opportunity he's got to do things. So if I close the gap on him, I'm taking away his time and space. Well, that's the same thing with life too. And it's funny. We had a podcast with another group of Navy SEALs, and I was telling the story. There's this great guy, this Kenny Bigby Jr. If you look him up, he's really motivating too. He's a retired SEAL. And I said, well, it's the same thing in life. If you've got bad things that are out there, close the gap on it. Don't let the bad things dictate the pace or the terms of the confrontation. You go dictate the terms of the confrontation. You close the gap there and you make it happen. And I said that, and he goes, "Oh, Tom!" Like he's all fired up. He said, "That was unbelievable. Can I use that one?" I go, "Yeah, you can use that one." So he's used that. So it's it sounds like you guys are doing it too. You just learn so many things about life that some people just get stuck in that rut, saying, "Okay, this is who I am. I can't do this. I can't do that." Instead of saying, I can do anything. I can do anything because I'm going to have the right mindset. I'm going to tell myself I can. And I'm going to go out and do the work to do it. And again, don't look at that big picture, try to get it all done in one day. You get one step at a time. Write yourself a list. What are the things I need to do to get to my final goal? And really, it sounds kind of corny, but you really can do anything you want to do. If you really want to do it bad enough, if you want to be disciplined enough and focused enough, then you can do it.
And a lot of things too, it's like people, they get knocked back a little bit and then they give up on their journey. It's like, you got to eat, you got to eat some to move up, Like,
totally.
I've noticed that a lot. Like I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life, but going up. So
good. Excellent. One of the big things I learned, big things I learned too, is like getting out of your comfort zone. So when you make a mistake or something unfair happens to you, it pushes you outside your comfort zone, right? You don't want to be there. But I've learned you can really train yourself to get out of your comfort zone so that you're much more prepared. So when you're forced out of your comfort zone, you say, okay, I'm used to it. I've been here before. So mentor this one young boy, and when I first met him, I said, what do you see when you look in the mirror? He says, I see a fat guy. I said, so when we're done working together, I'm going to ask you what you see, and I'm telling you, you're going to see a sexy bastard in front of the mirror. So he was pretty cool. So I was training him. I said, okay, I want you to take something out of your life for 30 days that you're going to survive. You'll be fine, but it's going to make you more uncomfortable than you want to be. So, and he got to choose whatever it was. And he says, I'm going to take hot water out of my life. So he's going to take cold showers for a month.
Mhm.
So he did that. And again, it was him to decide to do it, and he loved it. This is great, Tom. He says, at first it sucked, but now I love doing it. So he did stuff like that for a while. And after 3 months, you could tell his voice had changed. He was in a great mood and everything. So I said, what do you see when you look in front of the mirror? He starts laughing. He goes, a sexy bastard. He goes, so it's pretty good when that stuff happens. Last summer, like to show people that they can, we get conditioned to believe that we need certain things. So last summer I went without air conditioning the whole summer long. And people thought, well, geez, it's a big thing. But I grew up on a farm. I never had air conditioning. My parents, their whole lives, they never had air conditioning. I started thinking back about that. Like, why do we tend to they just believe like Wednesday is hump day. Well, no, Wednesday isn't hump day. We're not just trying to get through the week. Wednesday is pump day. Like recondition your mind to just not think like everybody else. So I got rid of the air conditioning, and everybody's like, wow, what are you doing? It really wasn't that big of a deal. Like we make it into a bigger deal than it really is. And we do that with a lot of things in our lives. And if we just stop and think and say, okay, I really don't have to do this. I don't need to necessarily live in a big house. I don't need all this other stuff. I don't need to sit and watch TV all day. Let's go do something else. Get outside and exercise or read a book. So a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty pumped. So you do the motivational speaking and you have the Full Change podcast. Can you just kind of plug yourself a bit? And I mean,
sure.
You were one of my you still are one of my heroes. Just being on a show that I admire so much in Survivor, and being an NHL player, and coming on the talk to us. But I'm sure you've just sold yourself to a lot of the people that listen to our show. So I want you to just kind of pump yourself up a little bit for those that are listening.
Perfect. So I've got my initial company. The parent company is True Grit Life. We've got a book coming out, and I've had the book going for about 3 or 4 years now. And my life is fantastic. I'm always doing new things, always learning new things. The bad part of that is that I'm always wanting to add it to the book. So we've got to pick a date to finally, hey, okay, this is it. You can't keep doing stuff. And I do that as a great thing. Yeah. It's funny, like now we're redoing the book because again, I just keep learning new things. My perspective on things that have happened in the past changed all the time. So now the book changes all the time. When I tell a story, again, listen, you're going to make mistakes. So I tell a story about how I was trying out for the Canadian Olympic team in 1980. And we were out didn't have much money. So we were staying in the construction trailers on the parking lot outside where the Saddle Dome is. Now the Saddle Dome was not built at that time. It was the corral. And the night before, I won't name the other two players, but the night before camp started, we went out and decided we were going to have a few adult beverages. And we got back to the trailer about 2 or 3 in the morning, and we decided that we're going to take the furniture out of the TV room and put it on the trainer's car. Now, I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but we really had sold it to ourselves. This is a funny thing, like a team bonding thing. So the other 2 guys go to bed, and I decided it'd be funny now to go wake the trainer up and tell him that we did it. And really, I got to tell you, when I was doing this, I really thought, Tom, this is brilliant. Everybody's going to love you. You're a team guy and everything. So I get up in the morning, and we had this Father Bauer ran Hockey Canada back then. I'm not even sure if it was called Hockey Canada, but he was in charge. He was a priest, great guy, real gentleman, soft-spoken and everything. So we're in the parking lot. We're going to walk over to the rink for practice. He comes walking over to me. Now, I really, again, to this point, I thought he's going to come up and give me a hug, saying how funny this was last night. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a plane ticket, and sent me home. So that I was cut from the team. Definitely, yeah. I had given them everything they wanted to set the precedent with everybody else. This is how we are not going to do it. So they sent me home to prove a point. And so now I've got to go back. I really thought I was going to make the team, and I really think I was going to make the team. So now I have to go back. It was my senior year of college. I have to go back to college, have to go back to my parents and explain to them that I did not make the team, and here's why I didn't make the team. So I didn't tell that story for years and it was embarrassing. So I finally told it to put it in the book. But what happened for me was, like, people talk about learning lessons. I don't know if I learned a lesson as much as I said. When I went back to college, I was obsessed. We had a good team. My first year of college was the first year they had a team there. So going in our senior year, we were, I don't even know if we were nationally ranked, but now I thought to myself, okay, my dream is playing the NHL. I've been drafted by the Rangers. What are they going to think of me? Like I'm some kind of an idiot. So I just went back obsessed. I'd been a 4-year captain. So it was my senior year as a captain. We played a game probably quarter of a way through the season. And I'd always been pretty good about getting up in front of the team and speaking. But this one night, like after the second period, I got up and I started making a speech. And I'm thinking to myself, where's this coming from? Because I really spoke from the heart about, don't look back 20 years from now when you regret anything that happened. And some of the seniors, it was really a teary moment. And the guys were crying because realizing, okay, this is it, guys. We've got this one last chance, this one last season to do something. And it's funny, we were losing the game. So we make this big speech. We're all fired up in the locker room. We go out, we get scored on right away. They scored against us. So we end up winning the game, and then we went on a 20-game winning streak. And again, I don't want to paint the picture that it was my speech. We had a great bunch of guys on the team, but for me, it was a big moment because I'd finally kind of grown up and matured, and taken that leadership role. And we ended up being ranked number 1 in the country. We lost the last game, the championship game, but it was, we'd gone from being nobody to being the best team in the country. So I tell that story in the book, and I tell a lot of other stories like that I really hadn't talked about before, like embarrassing stuff that I didn't want to admit. So I'm really happy with where the book's at, and again, it's going to evolve a little bit more. So we've got that book coming out, True Good Life. We do a lot of podcasts. We get hired by a lot of schools and companies to go and speak in front of them, particularly graduating classes, talk about how to conduct yourself when you go out there, and really more again that theory that again you are not perfect. You'll make mistakes. Bad things are going to happen to you. How do you deal with adversity? All those things about getting up every morning, the discipline. How do you conduct yourself in front of other people? So I'm really happy with that. It's become much more than my career now. It's something that it's my lifestyle. So I don't have to really prepare a speech for anything. As you know, now you're telling me I just keep on talking. So. And again, we've got the podcast Full Change. I'm really happy with that. I met this fantastic gentleman, this Tom Smith. He's my producer. He'd worked for Nickelodeon and Howard Stern, so really creative guy. And so we get on. Right now, it's just hockey, guys, but we'll switch that as we get going. I think we've done about 40 episodes. That's interesting because we talk about guys growing up, how their careers were, and then what they've done since the game, since they retired. And of those 40 guys we've had, and they talk about publicly, we've had 4 guys that have tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
Clinton Larchuk, who had got cut in the neck back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Richie Pilon, that played for a long time with the Islanders. Jim Thompson, that we spoke about before, and Corey Hirsch, the defenseman that should be played with the Rangers, and he's got some mental health issues. So these guys are open to talk about everything. A lot of it is drug and alcohol addiction. But the great thing is the guy, especially these 4 guys, other people as well. But the great thing with these 4 guys that obviously they survived the suicide attempt. But now they've really cleaned themselves up and are out there helping other people, particularly kids. Richie Pilon's story is a fantastic story. I knew him before, just a party guy, but tough guy and everything, but really cleaned his life up. He uses, he's native, and he uses horses to help kids in the reservations and everything. So he's fantastic. So I really love that podcast, the message it's sending and everything. Some of them are just fun shows telling old stories, but some of them big, deep stuff too. Always new things coming up. Again, I talked about the State Department and going off and doing those adventures. Love to do another reality show. If Survivor came back and asked me to play again, I'd love to do that. So my life now is, man, I always have something going on, and I hope it continues that way. I don't ever want to stop. Like some of the older players that played, we were at an event the other day, and they were talking about getting the prostate exam and colonoscopy and everything. I'm going, jeez, guys, you're killing me.
Yeah.
Let's go for a march here. Let's go and do an adventure or something. So, not that you should not get the colonoscopy and the prostate exam.
Yeah.
We know.
Also get that, but do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just just live your life. I really believe I don't. So this Tecumseh I mentioned before, he's got this one part of the poem. He says, "Live your life so that when it comes your time to die, you don't beg for more time to live your life differently."
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I don't want to be morbid, but when you go to die, you want to be able to say, "Man, that was a hell of a ride." Right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to lay me to rest. I'm going to go screaming into the grave. Like, yeehaw. Yeah. One of the funny things that people ask, have you always been like this, where you just always look for the next adventure? And so growing up on the farm in Canada, well, you can relate to this, where the big truck comes from the dairy to pick up your milk. So we always had pickup trucks and all the tractors, and I could drive all those things. But I always wanted to drive those big trucks, with the brakes, and I go, and I was like a little kid. So the Rangers back in the early 80s started a program where they would pay for you to go to school during the summer to try to, help you. So I picked up a newspaper and I saw this Superior truck driving school. So I called the Rangers up and I said, hey, I'm going to go to school. And they think I'm going to like the Harvard Business School or something like that. So I said, I'm going to truck driving school. What? So I went to this truck driving school for 3 weeks. It was a blast. We were learning how to back up the trucks. There was no internet or anything at that point, so nobody knew who I was at first. About halfway through the program, this one instructor comes out to me and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I just want to learn how to drive the truck." So I learned how to drive the truck, came home and got my lesson, and never drove it after that. So I've just been, it's just something I wanted to do, and I've kind of realized that about myself more, and I take advantage of it more. Like again, the Survivor thing. I've got so many. I'm on boards of all these like military things. I'm really proud of. There's a board down in Virginia Beach. It's called Warrior for Life Fund, and it helps raise money for all kinds of different things. So being on that board, going down there, you hang around with all the SEALs. They go on things like these. Get those, the parachuting things inside the little tunnel there, the wind tunnel.
Yeah.
So I get to do all that. Because we helped out with the swim across the Hudson with the Navy SEALs. They had us to a farm up in Pennsylvania where we had a Navy SEAL out there with live ammunition, teaching us how to do some of these tactical maneuvers. When we started, there's about 20 of us, and he goes, "Okay, I want 3 volunteers. I want you to be a tourniquet, put tourniquets on. I want you to have the map, and I want you to drive." And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Like, he's going, this is live ammunition. People get shot. So he's planning for us, if we get shot, to get us to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
But he trained us up so good that by the time we got started shooting the guns, it was a fantastic day, because he really teaches you the team thing. So I was teamed up with a guy I did not know, but now the theory is we're relying on each other to save each other's lives. So as he moved, I had to have the cover fire going down. So I'm the live ammunition. I'm shooting at this target. He's moving. Once he gets to his spot, now I move, and he's protecting me. And we got done. It was like we were like brothers, because we felt like, you're protecting my life. So get to do all that.
Amazing, like scary, but amazing.
Yeah, totally. It's exactly like when he first said about the tourniquets and everything. I was like, what have I got myself into here? But so it seems like now I'm like, we had an event down at Manhattan this past Wednesday. For the Ronald McDonald House. So now I get to be asked to be MC for those kinds of events. So they hand me a script, and I just take it over and run with it. And it's a real honor to be part of those things too, and I've gotten much better at it. I was, but my old college had me up there in Northern Michigan probably 3 or 4 months ago, and I made a presentation in front of their student athletes. And as you can tell, I just feel so much more like I'm really into this true grit life, the motivational speaking. So it isn't like a job to me. It's my life now. So, and again, like I said, I'm so fortunate that I get to meet more and more great people as we go along. So there'll probably be some more adventures coming along here, but that's where we're at now.
Is there any Tom Laidlaw merch, like True Change merch, or would everything be through True Grit?
Yeah, you know what? We had a store on True Grit Life. We're going to get that again. So I have a website is truegritlife.com. We had a store where we had True Grit Life t-shirts, and we just discontinued it. I can't remember why. That was a while ago. I think maybe it was during the pandemic or whatever it was. So we will get that going again. Again, so truegritlife.com is the website. I'm on Instagram at Real Tom Laidlaw, REAL Tom Laidlaw, and then at Facebook, Tom Laidlaw. So you can always, I encourage people to, we do a lot of things in the mental health world. And we had a lot of like some sad stories where people have reached out to me. They were suicidal, and we're able to, like, I'm really careful what I say to people. Listen, I'm here for you. I am not trained in that stuff. So I would steer you to this mental health hotline here in the US. It's 988. But I think it's important with a lot of these people, it's more just reassuring them that there's people that are there for them, that they feel lonely sometimes and everything. And again, we really encourage other people. I know it's hard sometimes, but you're walking down the street, you see somebody and they don't look right. Go up and ask them how you do it, or say something nice to somebody. Or it's amazing what you can do by just being nice to somebody else. And again, the big thing is you're going to be helping them, but you will see over time, the more you do that, the more you help other people, things will start coming back your way that you never would have expected. So,
no, just great philosophies, and just I'm like I said, you were my hero before coming on this, and just I hold you to even such a higher regard. Speaking to you the last bit.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. It really does mean a lot to me. I was doing this stuff for a while and really wasn't interacting with people. And I went to an event with the Rangers before the pandemic started. It was down in Manhattan. And this gentleman came up to me, similar to you, and he started hugging me. And I was like, okay, this is somebody. He's a great guy. And he said to me, Tom, you saved my life. The doctors told me I had to lose 70 pounds or I wasn't going to make it. And because of you, following you, I lost the 70 pounds. So when you hear that stuff and you see you're making a difference in somebody else's life, and I encourage this, it's at different levels. Other people can do the same thing too. It's really just helping other people out. So when that started to happen, I then realized, okay, I'm making a difference here. And it kind of like at first was a little bit overwhelming, but then you realize, okay, well, keep going. And I've learned new things and, you learn how much you can reach things. When I went up to Northern Michigan, I also spoke at a alternative high school up there, and it was all for kids that have gone through terrible things. Not all the kids, but a lot of the kids shipped off for sex trafficking and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. One girl was shipped off for her mother and sold her in the sex trafficking world. Excuse me, and so after I was up there, this one young girl posted on Instagram. It was her picture of her and I together, and she said, how she said, it's so nice to meet this man. He is my hero. So when you hear that kind of stuff, you're going,
yeah.
So it's school life. So, but again, I encourage everybody. You don't have to be at my level where I'm at as far as discipline and help other people. If you want to be, that's fine. But it's just like you will find in your life, the more you get disciplined, help other people, your life will get better. You'll love yourself more. You'll learn new things. And one of the big things you learn is you're always going to get better. You're never going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. Just loving yourself. Learn to love yourself. If there's something you want to change in your life, like you did, Joel, you change it. You can do anything that you want to do.
Well, that is motivation for me. I'll be going to the gym for 6 hours after this.
There you go. There you go.
We'll move on to the playoffs that are going on right now. I know from following you on socials, you've been keeping an eye on the Rangers playoffs. They're up 2-1 right now over the Devils. Who do you have coming out of the East?
Ooh. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a former Ranger, so I'm going to say Rangers, but it's a tough road. I mean, you look at Boston with the season they had, but are they going to get past Florida? I mean, Florida's a good hockey team. Carolina's a good team. I don't think you ever count out Tampa. Just think they've got a character team there. Yes, they've lost a lot of talent that they've had to get rid of for cap reasons, but they're still good. Again, and you're always going to have that. To me, it's every year there's some team that pops up in there that nobody really predicted was going to, pop. Maybe it's Florida this year. Either way, it's like the playoffs are going to be fantastic. Like Jersey, when the Rangers won 5-1 both games in New Jersey, I was shocked. I thought the Rangers would do well. I thought maybe like 2-1 kind of games. I think the Devils were a little bit overwhelmed. That young team.
Yeah,
Hughes is a great player. I thought the Rangers did a better job last night. Although they won the first two games 5-1, I thought they did a better job against him as far as banging him around. But he ultimately got going. So it's tough. I think it's really one of those things where legitimately there's 5 teams. I think Carolina, Boston. Although you see what happens with Florida, the Rangers, and I think you have to have Jersey in there as well. So I think those kind of teams and the teams that should come out of the East, but it's great hockey. And some people don't like it when you've got like a good team getting like a highly ranked team getting knocked out in the first round. I don't mind that. Yeah, it's every round.
Florida knocking out Boston in my bracket.
I agree.
Cool. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I think in the old days, it was so lopsided that first round. It wasn't even a good round. It wasn't even good hockey because it was blowouts all the time, right? Mm-hmm. This way, it's like you have 4 rounds that are good hockey all the time. Yeah, and that's the luck of the draw that sometimes a good hockey team like either Boston or New Jersey's going to get beat out in the first round. But that's you've got to go win. You got to do the job. So I tell you, I love NHL playoffs right now. Like of all the sports out there, I mean, I love watching football on TV. But playoff hockey now in the National Hockey League. I'll tell you, one of the best things too. If you ever get a chance to go to Madison Square Garden for a playoff game in the city, fantastic. I mean, just the noise, the just everything is fantastic down there.
Who do you cheer for in football?
Well, it's funny. When I grew up on the farm, my father was a Green Bay Packer fan, so I cheered for the Cowboys all the time. I want to go. Yes, people ask me who my favorite athlete was, and I said there used to be a Dallas Cowboy by the name of Randy White. He's a big defensive lineman, big number 54. And I didn't know why I liked him so much, but now I look back at my life, and what he was known for was that he never quit.
Yeah,
he just kept going and going all the time. My father was a proud man, like, so he never bragged about it. And one of the things he only say about himself was that he could never be outworked. That was he loved that about himself. He talked about it all the time. So when I got traded out to LA, I bought him one of those big satellite dishes to watch our games. Well, I tried to buy him one. I had it delivered to his home, and he threw the guy out because he didn't want me paying for the whole thing. So we had to negotiate. Yeah, we had to negotiate a settlement. So he ultimately got the dish put up, and we were playing a game in Calgary. And Scotty Bowman wasn't coaching at the time; he was doing color commentating. And I'm carrying the puck down the ice. I flew over the goaltender, went flying into the boards head first. And the play-by-play guy goes, "I don't know who that is, but he's not getting up." And Scotty Bowman goes, "Oh no, that's Laidlaw. He always gets up." That my father was watching that game. That was his proudest moment. It didn't matter if I scored a goal or playing the NHL. That's the reputation I built. And Scotty Bowman recognized it. So my father was so proud. So
That's awesome.
That's my
yeah, it's pretty cool. I think he called me right away or whatever, but like, he wasn't crying, but he was like, "You heard what Scotty Bowman said about you?" He was fired up. So good stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Yeah, but now I'm a Giants
right.
fan. I'm a newer Giants fan now. So yeah, I have to be a Giants fan here. So
I
sorry.
was gonna say, if you're in New York, I'm a Niners fan. So
you what? Sorry,
I'm a Niners fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They're good. They're a good team. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Who they have who's the quarterback now? Like the guy that had the end of the year got hurt, right?
Yeah, everybody got hurt at quarterback this year for the 49ers, but they have two rookies fighting for a starting spot right now. So it'll be
Lance and Purdy.
Yeah, Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. There's a big question mark this year. And sorry, Sam Darnold is also a part of the team, but
he's great.
Yeah. You know what? It's a shame too, because I thought he was going to be okay. They did the same thing with Mark Sanchez when they had him with the Jets here. Started off great, and then they screwed him up. What's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? He's going to be a Jet, correct?
I think so.
That guy's a loose cannon. I don't even know.
I think he's one of the Jets.
Yeah. Well, they're all uptight here because if he doesn't, they think they should have gotten the deal done already. If he decides he's not coming or going to retire or whatever, they're stuck with the young kid
Wilson.
They hate him around here. He's had a bad attitude. Yeah,
they don't like him. They don't like him.
Yeah, definitely. So who's coming out of the West end of the NHL?
Personally, I mean, it's probably biased what my heart wants, but I have the Edmonton Oilers versus the Rangers in the final.
Okay. You know what? And it should happen too with those two, Draisaitl and McDavid there too. Yeah. You hope it happens, right? But my only concern is the goaltending there, right?
Oh, 100%. That is the biggest question.
Always the problem.
Okay, a team we didn't touch on, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I have them being upset. I mean, my prediction's already wrong because I had Tampa in 5.
Okay.
But I'll amend it to Tampa in 6.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just biased because we want a nice storyline to talk about. And
right.
If you can see by our photos, we're Montreal fans.
Okay.
So I would love nothing more than the Leafs to lose in the first again.
Yeah, I know. You know, I hate to say this. I don't want to be critical of an individual. Kyle Dubas, I just don't know if he knows what he's doing.
100%.
Like he's just the whole culture that he's put together there. Like he gets all these skilled guys. He said, okay, now I need some character guys. So now I go and get Ryan O'Reilly. But it doesn't make those skill guys the character players anymore. It's Ryan O'Reilly is a character guy. So and the goaltending is just not good enough either. That's the scary part for me.
No, and the worst thing is like it's how many years where they're like, yeah, we're gonna go in the offseason and get guys. And then they wait till the trade deadline. Like you can't, like you said, bring in these guys at the trade deadline and expect them to make the team so much better. When obviously there was like at 10 games left in the season, the look on Matthews' face didn't even look like he wanted to play hockey.
No.
And that's the thing. You know what I don't like about him too, and not everybody has to be a fighter, but I've seen so many times where something happens, somebody goes after him or he does something, and he just backs away.
Yep.
Let somebody. Okay, you don't have to fight, but don't back away from the altercation. You got to stay. It's one of those signs that you look at and go, that's not a really good team, right? They're just.
He doesn't seem like he has the heart. And I said this a few times where he seems like he's more interested in hanging out with Justin Bieber and Drake post game than he is, has the heart. Like I've seen Mitch Marner a few times, visibly upset and wanting, like he gives a shit, and maybe it's because that's his hometown team. He's playing in his hometown.
Yep.
And he knows how much it means. But I don't know. Matthews doesn't seem like he has his heart in it. He has all the talent in the world, but doesn't seem like he has much heart.
So when I was playing when Mario Lemieux started, and when he started, obviously his skill level was unbelievable. And I don't think he was wrapped up in like the Justin Bieber kind of stuff, but he really wasn't that great of a competitor at first. Like you could take him to the boards and hold him against the boards and he wouldn't fight back. Once he got to play like in Canada Cups, Gretzky and Messier and all those guys, he started to become a different player. Like he saw the level he could take himself to. I just wonder with Matthews, like, so he's rolling along now, making big money, scoring lots of goals, great rookie year, all that stuff. Right, he's having fun off the ice. But you kind of wonder, does he need to be around and spend some more time with those kind of guys that are really like those gritty guys? You would think he would pick it up from Tavares and Sarah. He sees back,
But Tavares didn't have a lot of playoff experience. Tavares in Toronto kind of in the similar situation where the Islanders were just starting to get back to the playoffs when Tavares left.
Yeah. And you kind of wondered, like, does Toronto look back and say, did we get too much of the same thing by signing Tavares, right?
1,000%. 1,000%.
And, letting guys, like, again, like, they take Spezza back, hasn't played all year, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like but like obviously it's shown with Mitch Marner when they brought in those veteran guys. Like Mitch Marner was best friends with Patrick Marleau. Like, he was going to Patrick Marleau's house and stuff like that. I just find like Matthews just doesn't fit. He doesn't have that. I want to learn. I want to those guys. He's like, I know best. I scored 60 goals. Let me be me. It's like, well, there's a lot to learn.
Like Dougie Gilmore playing against him, sometimes in a regular season game wasn't too bad. Came playoff time, he wanted to win, and he showed his teammates, he showed the opposition, he wanted to win. He'd do anything for him. He did something to me one time. I played against him lots, and he'd always play hard, but we got in a playoff game, and he did something to me. I can't remember what it was. I'm like, what are you doing? He's just looking at me like, and we'd spoken to each other like he's one of those guys. Like during the regular season, you could, hey Tommy, hey Doug, how you doing? And you go on playing, he'd still play hard against them, and he'd play hard against you, but he was just playoff time. There was no friends out there. He was going to play to win. And Matthews doesn't have that in him. It just doesn't seem like it's there. Right? It could be in him, but he hasn't reached that potential yet. So.
And at what point are they going to stop blaming the coach? This was my rant that I wanted to go on yesterday.
Well, hold on. I want to finish with Tom's question before you go off.
Okay, let's go.
Our first episode, I think you're episode 27 or 8, but the first ever episode of Average Jocks, we did just bold predictions. It was the beginning of the season, and my prediction was that Dubas and Keith would be fired at the end of the year.
Well, I see. Here's the thing, but I'd add one more guy, Brendan Shanahan, because if you think so, Brendan Shanahan went and hired all those guys. He had Lou Lamoriello there and chose Kyle Dubas over Lou Lamoriello. I'm assuming there was some conversation that Lou said, listen, if I'm not going to be GM, I just can't stay around. I just can't do that. So he left, and now he's having success with the Islanders. Moderate success anyways. So my feeling is that if Shanahan now, he put this group of people together, and they're going to be saying, okay, what's going on here? Does Dubas know what he's doing? So if they fire, maybe it's the GM's last thing to save his own job kind of thing. So or the president anyway. So if Shanahan says, okay, I'll fire those two guys, that saves me my job for now. I'll go out and hire new people. Maybe they can do better, and I save my job. So it's I think that's the additional guy put in there. I would say both. I think both coach and GM are going to be gone. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think? Do they right the ship and bring Mark Hunter in and finally give him the reins? Because I thought that would have been the right move. Whenever they announced Lou Lamoriello going, I thought, you know what, Mark Hunter,
right?
He's built championship teams.
Right.
He's played.
Part of the deal with the Leafs is that building sold out all the time. It's a cash cow, right? Always. So they're not making any decisions to make more money. Doesn't matter. So it's a decision to win. I don't know. To me, that team you don't have to gut the team, but you've got to change the culture of that team. So you would think, okay, the Hunter mentality is similar to the Sutter mentality, right? That gritty, get down to work, get dirty kind of thing. So you would think based on the success that they had in London and everything, the Hunter brothers, then they could do the same thing with the Leafs. But the thing is, it's not going to happen overnight too, because again, that culture has to get changed. I mean, there's really, I shouldn't say this. Remember Craig Berube came in and took over the St. Louis Blues, and they were in last place in the AHL, right? And then won the cup. And one of the first things he said was he needed to change the locker room. And that's pretty telling, right? So like when a character guy like Craig Berube says that, then obviously it's a big character issue in the locker room. I would think that the Hunters would be the same way. They want that team atmosphere. So it'd be interesting to see that if that happened. It'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, do they trade Matthews? Because he was smart, right? Didn't he sign like a 5-year contract?
Yeah, he's done at the end of next season.
He's done,
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's a smart move by him. Like, I guess it's great to get that big long-term contract like McDavid did, but he probably cost himself some money because the cap's going to continue to go up like he did what Matthews did. Now you're a free agent at much, So that's the thing. Do you want to let him get the free agency and not have him sign and lose him for nothing? I mean, that may be the thing. If they lose here in the first round, do they make the decision to entertain trading him this summer instead of getting themselves to the point where they lose him?
I would.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the best bet.
But I've also not played in the show, Tom. Like they always say Gretzky was traded. Anybody can get traded. But do you think, just from again having played and kind of knowing the business a little more than us, do you think that that's a realistic way to look at it?
Well, if I'm GM. Okay, I'm saying, listen, I got all this top-end talent here. There's probably their lineup as talent as anybody in the National Hockey League, but we lose in the first round. So what is now? You look at the GM and say, well, part of the reason is you didn't get us good enough goaltending. Now, was there goaltending available out there? In fairness, there's how many Shesterkins or Vasilevskis are there? So I would just say, listen, okay, where are we going with this team the way it's currently put together? And we add the fact that at the end of next season, Matthews is an unrestricted free agent. We lose him for nothing. For me, I'm looking and saying, okay, I need to change. If Mark Hunter, let's say for sure, I'm coming in. See, it's easier for Mark Hunter to come in and make these kind of changes because he didn't draft these players. He didn't build this group of players together. So he can come in and say, okay, listen, it was poorly constructed. So I'm going to trade Matthews. I'm going to get a ton for him. I'm going to change the culture of our hockey team. That's what needs to happen. And again, he's going to have the luxury of there's no pressure little pressure from the ownership because it's not costing them money. They're sold out all the time. They're always going to make their dough. The pressure is to win. So, okay, now he's making these moves. So it buys him some time now to win there. And I think the Hunters are those kind of guys where I don't think the pressure is something that bothers them too much. The pressure of being in Toronto. It's just they want to win. They want to win, and that's it. So, I mean, I would really look at if they lose in the first round again, or even if they win the first round and lose in the second round, I'm still thinking to myself, the culture in this team is just not right. We need to make major changes here. And, no bigger changes than Matthews going someplace. And you should be able to get quite a bit for him, especially if you trade him someplace that he really wants to go. So there's a better chance of re-signing him for the team that gets him. I think that's a big thing too, because to trade away a lot for him and only have him for 1 year for the team you trade him to, that's a tough move if you don't keep him around.
Well, I get the sense if you're somebody that doesn't have the heart in it, in a mecca like any of the original 6 teams, which he's already playing for Toronto, with a bunch of quality players, he's wanting to go somewhere warm.
Yeah.
They're not going to trade him in the East because Tampa and Florida are in their same division.
Yeah.
So you're looking Anaheim, San Jose, LA, Arizona, Vegas. Vegas, I don't think has the space to take him on.
Yeah, right. Arizona, see, to me, he's from Arizona too, correct? Yeah,
yes,
Arizona. Yeah. Is Arizona ready to take him on though? I guess is that.
Well, that's what takes them out of my equation. Is they have a lot of capital, very young, doesn't really help the Leafs now, where they have their window with so many guys. Riley, Brody, Tavares, Marner, like Nylander, like right now is kind of their window. Arizona's pieces that they would have that would make sense for a trade for me are too young and don't fit that window.
Yeah.
Right.
So then you're looking Anaheim. Okay, do you ship Matthews to Anaheim? You're looking at maybe a Zegras, a Drysdale, potentially Connor Bedard. That conversation starts.
Yeah. See, to me, if I'm going to make that move, if I'm Mark Hunter, I'm saying, well, I'm Tom Laidlaw. I'm GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Right. I'm trading away. I say I'm going to make the decision to trade away Matthews. So what are you saying then? Well, Matthews is the leader of this team. He's going to be free agent at the end of the year. We don't want to lose him for nothing. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The culture in the locker room is not what we need to win a Stanley Cup. He's a big part of that culture because of what he is. And it doesn't appear like we're talking, and everybody else probably sees it too, that this guy really wants to be a competitor and win. He's enjoying life, making lots of money. Still a great player, scoring lots of goals, but he doesn't seem to be that guy that really wants to win. It's not a priority to him. So if I'm doing that, then the players I get back better be players that are the more like culture building teams. Like is Zegras that kind of player, skilled player? So
I don't think he has the heart.
No.
Right.
I think he's the same type of player as Matthews.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they don't make that move, right? It's either got to be, and maybe it becomes more of a 3-team deal to get the players you want, right? That's a bigger thing now in the National Hockey League. So, like again, you're saying to the fans, all right, we need to change the culture. I better get the right players that help change that culture. They did that with Ryan O'Reilly, but we talked about before. You can't have a bunch of guys that are not character players and then bring in a character player thinking he's going to change the team around. It just doesn't work that way.
And halfway through the season too, you could see
well, more than halfway.
Yeah, well, you know,
3/4.
And then he got hurt, and he was out for 2.5 weeks or whatever it was. You know, so like, yeah.
Yep, I agree. No, it's fun. I mean, I hate being like that because Kyle Dubas is a human being. I don't want to see somebody get fired, but that's the business, right? Especially in a city like Toronto, if you're not going to win, you got to make changes.
Yeah, shit or get off the pot.
Yeah,
there you go. There you
go. But you didn't answer the question. Who do you have coming out of the West?
I'm not a Jack Eichel guy at all. I don't like his attitude, and it's just from a distance. He just seems the comments he made the first time they went into Buffalo, and the Buffalo fans booed him. You know, those kind of comments. I don't like that at all. The way he handled his fellows, he doesn't seem like a team guy. Super talented player. There's no question about it. But I do like their team. I like the way they're constructed. They seem to be more of a like Stone. I like a lot. The character, that kind of character player like him. But you're right. I look at Edmonton and I go, wow. I mean, if their goaltending is good enough, if it holds up, it seems like they've got enough with Draisaitl and McDavid there to come out of there. Colorado, I love Nathan McKinnon. I think he's a fan, and Makar, obviously, there's no question. Landeskog's out. He's still out though, right?
He's done. Yeah, he's not coming back.
Is Makar still hurt too, or is he back?
No, Makar is back, but Landeskog is out for the entire playoff.
Right. See, I love the way McKinnon plays. I know McDavid's by far, the best player in the National Hockey League, but McKinnon, the way he plays, like he's a power forward, he can skate and everything. So anybody that's got him, I give them a chance. And Makar in the back end. I do think their goaltending is better with Georgiev. He was a good backup here with the Rangers, so I think they're better. So I guess I got those 3 teams, right? So Vegas, Edmonton, and Colorado. Colorado's defending champs. They've done it before, but again, they've lost. So Landeskog is out, and Kadri's not on the lineup that they had last year, right? So he's gone. So those are 2 pretty gritty, playoff kind of players that are gone. I guess I'd have to go with Edmonton, really. Again, and we're just hoping that their goaltending holds up.
So do you have the same Stanley Cup matchup I had, Edmonton Rangers?
I think as we've gone through the process, that's what we had, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So who, I'm not going to say who would you want. I'm assuming the Rangers is that obvious choice, but who do you think out of those 2 would be your Stanley Cup champion?
Well, it would be a fantastic series. I don't think a lot of people understand, and maybe you guys do. Shesterkin is all world. Like when he's on his game,
he's my favorite goaltender. Once Carey Price went down by far.
Yeah. That's a good comparison too. Carey Price was a similar kind of player. Not only does he stop the puck, but he does it in a way where the team is just so confident in him. So the Rangers always have the knock now that they give up so many good offensive opportunities. That's the way they are designed. They don't want to give up the chances, but they want to create chances. So it'll be run and gun. Like if those 2 teams play each other with McDavid and Draisaitl there, the up and down hockey will be incredible. The difference will be the goaltending in Shesterkin. If he can play his game, if he does for if it's 7 games and he plays his game for 7 games, then the Rangers win. So
I also have the Rangers winning. I would love to see Edmonton win.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it would have to be on McDavid and Draisaitl's will and not so much relying on anybody else. So it would have to be a shootout.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. Like those guys will be unstoppable. There's no question about it. It's just that Shesterkin, it shouldn't be unstoppable. He will be the only thing will stop those 2 guys.
Yeah, 100%.
And I give the edge to the Rangers D as well. Trouba, Lindgren, Fox, and Keandre Miller. Just fantastic top 4.
Yeah, they really are. It's interesting. I didn't know this. Keandre Miller has only been playing defense for 5 years. He's played hockey for a long time, but he just switched to defense 5 years ago.
Really? That's impressive.
Okay.
Yeah, he's had some turnover issues in his first few games with the Devils, and that's why I was listening to the NHL Network on Sirius Radio, and they brought that up that he'd only played those 5 years. So it kind of shows some of those turnovers. But he's an incredible athlete. He's a big man. He's a competitor. So you kind of live with some of his turnovers, and there are turnovers that are really fixable pretty quickly too. Like he tries to force. It was 5-0. I think one game he tried to force it through the middle of the ice. Interesting. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a couple non-hockey related questions before we let
Sure.
you go.
Mhm.
Well, actually, the first one is hockey related. So Tom, you played many years in the NHL. You've watched. You don't have to stick to your playing days. You can pick any generation. Your ideal defense partner and a goaltender you would want to play in front of.
Without question, Larry Robinson as my defense partner. I played with him in LA, and we got in the ice a couple of times together. Just a fantastic person, like a little kid playing the game. He loved playing, and what I loved about it is he would, he tried that pass up the middle of the ice, come in his own zone, and he'd get picked off, and he'd go and score. He would do the same thing all over again. He had total confidence in himself. He'd hit, he'd fight, he'd score goals, power play, penalty kill, no question. Him. Favorite goalie I'd want to play for? Wow, that was a lot of them. Martin Brodeur. I got to know him a little bit. As much as his skill and his ability, his attitude, he just was like this positive guy, didn't get down on his teammates at all. And I think that's just such a big part of it. So, like Henrik Lundqvist is a fantastic goaltender and a ton of respect for him, and does a lot of stuff around the area, and I've got to meet him. The one thing I'd be critical of him is like he would really get on his defensemen, like there's his teammates, like yelling at him and everything. I just never liked that. I love this intensity. He wanted to win, and that's why he was doing it. But at those times, when your star player like that, Henrik Lundqvist, and your key player on your team as a goaltender is kind of losing his mind and yelling at you, especially with young players, it kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. So they didn't like that. So I'd say Brodeur.
Yeah, and he wore gloves. That always threw me off.
He's too good.
Yeah. He wore white gloves, and I'm always like, what the fuck's this guy doing?
Yeah, he's way too good looking too. His hair's too nice.
He needs a fucking star or something.
Yeah. Go on Survivor. Sit out there on the beach and Survivor and get dirty.
Go 3 days without eating, Henrik, and see how you like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
no hairspray. Lose that perfect jaw real quick.
Yeah. No hairspray. Yeah. We joke around because Ron Duguay, the former Ranger, is dating Sarah Palin. And Dukes really likes to make himself look good. That's his brand. Yeah. So we're joking around, like when they travel together, it actually saves them money because they both use the same hairspray and makeup and everything. So
that's awesome. Yeah. My next question, Survivor related, similar to the hockey one I just asked. If you could pick anybody throughout the game of Survivor to be in an alliance with, it can be a couple different people. Who would be your favorite alliance?
Oh, well, remember Ben, the Navy SEAL guy that won? He's a Marine. Remember Ben? He won the. He was on a couple of times. He was on the 40th show, the All-Star show.
Yes.
So Ben, he was the one that wore the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
I'm a big supporter of the military. He was a Marine. We've stayed in touch. We didn't know each other at all. We've never met face to face, but we contacted, I think, on Instagram. So we've stayed together. He would be one. I think I liked the way he played. He was the one. He had an alliance going. He kind of screwed it up. He tried to be a dictator, and they turned against him. But he then continued to find idols. He actually stayed up in the middle. Everybody else went to bed. He stayed up in the middle of the night. Yeah. So he was not. The other guy was really good. I got to know a little bit with Boston Rob. He's a big hockey. Yeah, he's a big hockey fan. So he was on season 39. He was at Island of the Idols. So I'd never met him until we got to the finale because I didn't go to the Island of the Idols. But he came up to me. He said, "Hey, Big Tom," and I said, "Hey, what's up?" And he really puts on that kind of cocky attitude when he's on the show, but he's really not. He and his wife got 3 kids. Real good family guy. He's a great guy. Yeah. So those 2 guys.
You know what? We're gonna try and get Boston Rob on next. I'll have to,
cool.
Is he on Instagram?
You know what? I don't know. I know that Ben is on Instagram. I don't think I've seen Boston. I really never looked for him. He must be on something, Facebook or Instagram.
Okay, we'll try and find him.
Yeah.
So my next question, non-sports related. What is the best nickname you've ever been given?
Great question. So when I first turned pro, I think it was somebody wrote an article here in New York. And they said I was a legend in my own time up at Marquette, Michigan, where I went to school. Okay. So the players saw that and they go, obviously they jumped all over that, right? So they go, "Oh, Ledge." So they started calling me Ledge. But most people I know now call me Tommy, whatever. They don't call me the Ledge. If I see somebody, I did a podcast with Eddie Hospodar, for instance, and he goes, "Hey, Ledge." So when people that I know now don't know that nickname and they hear Ledge, they like, "What is Ledge?" Because it came from nowhere. So that probably the best one.
Perfect.
I like that.
All right. And final one. your favorite cheat day meal.
Oh.
Grasshopper. We don't have cheat days.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I think to myself, okay, I love my body. I love myself. I love my mind. I'm going to work so hard to improve all the time. Why am I going to call it a cheat day? I just don't look at food that way. I think that's part of the shift that people look at food as a source of fun or comfort or whatever. I look at food as a source of, I want to enjoy my food, but it's a source of fuel for my body. So I once in a while, like a while ago, I can't remember where it was. I was hungry and I had to eat French fries. And I ate them. I felt terrible. And it was actually a good thing for me because I've eaten so healthy now that if I put fried food in my body, I just feel awful. So
you know what? That has been my biggest change as well. I was a big like pasta, pizza, like fries. Like I loved the starches.
Yep.
And I went, the last 2 months really with eating none.
Yep.
And on the way back from his place, actually last night, the wife's like, pull in there, like let's get a fry. And I had 2 individual fries and I felt like shit. And I'm just
good.
Like, nope,
that's good.
I do not want this.
So you've shifted your body now into a clean body. So now you put bad stuff in, it kind of rejects it, right? That's cool. That's a good job. Really good.
I know there's a bodybuilder, Jay Cutler. He was massive, and they would eat, I don't know, 8 meals a day when they were going to Olympia, and then now he's not in it. And like at the time, his nutritionist, there was a girl and they ended up getting married and they're still together, and he eats and he's like, I don't like food anymore. He's like, I just eat because it's fuel. And I mean, he was like 350 pounds of just straight muscle.
Sure.
But I mean,
so I'll reword the question then, not a cheat day.
Sure.
What would be your guilty pleasure meal? Like maybe something that isn't as healthy as the rest of your stuff.
Yeah. I would say I view steak is still healthy. You just can't have it that often. I would say, you know what? I would still say a nice cheeseburger. Like maybe take the top bun off. Okay. Just have half the bun. No cheese.
Okay, so
a cheeseburger. A cheeseburger with no cheese. Yeah.
Okay, and is this homemade or do you have a favorite takeout place?
All homemade. I do. I make my own. I make my own hummus. I make my own ketchup. I make everything at home. I just realized you can control how much salt and sugar. Like I make my own soups too. Like if you go in a store and you look at the labels on the soup, it's all sodium. There's like 21% of sodium. And once you get going on, like your own ketchup isn't really that big of a deal. So with ketchup, they put that high fructose corn syrup in it, which is terrible for you, but it's a really cheap sweetener. So what I do is I have an air fryer, so I roast up peppers, tomatoes, garlic, saute up the onions and everything. And when you roast everything, it gives you that sweetness. And then for the salty taste, I put capers in. Capers are a fruit. Yeah, capers are a fruit that are actually a really good antioxidant. So you get all the same flavors without using the salt and sugar. So those kind of things.
So cheeseburger with no cheese, no top bun.
That's right. I was over the bunch of people yesterday. I was with my girlfriend, and her and I eat the same way. So we each ordered a salad, and we ordered a cheeseburger with no bun, and cut it in half. And everybody's looking at us like, "You two are weird." Like,
yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, honestly, Tom, it has been a double whammy of excitement for me with speaking to one of my favorite Survivor players, speaking to an NHL legend, and I just appreciate so much you coming on and talking with us. And you definitely didn't have to do that, but we love it. I've been watching your podcast, and I look forward to seeing where you guys go. And as soon as you guys get some merch in, I'd love to buy some.
Perfect. It's great to meet you guys. Thank you for having me on. We'll do it again sometime too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. It has been an absolute pleasure.
All right, guys. Great day.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care.
Bye.